Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is the Marin Communications Forum. We're very glad to have you here today to talk about financial literacy, a subject that will be good for all of us, but especially for our clients and community partners. We're really looking forward to presentations from SparkPoint Marin and to be able to learn more about their services and how they serve our community. So we have a PowerPoint presentation and video, and we're going to begin with an introduction from Heather Battini. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's nice to have you, and thanks for your interest in our topic today. My name is Heather Battini. I'm the director of SparkPoint Marin, and I have been with SparkPoint, which is a program of Community Action Marin, for 13 months now. Previously, I worked in higher education at a community college, actually at another SparkPoint center. So we were really focusing on connecting community college students who were low income or had significant barriers to resources that would help them complete college and move on toward their goals. I am from San Rafael originally. I went to the public schools here, so Glenwood and Davidson and San Rafael High School. And as somebody who grew up here with relative privilege due to being white and due to my parents both having graduated from college and having dual income, I realized that a lot of my success was due to those circumstances, and that not everybody has the same opportunities, and there are systemic barriers that prevent folks from reaching their full potential. So that's really, I just wanted to share my call to action and the reason that I do this work. And I'm very grateful to be able to be back in the community I was raised in and to serve the populations here, not only in San Rafael, but all throughout Marin County. So again, thank you all for being here, and I will let my co-presenters come up and introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Axel Flores. I'm a financial coach in the SparkPoint Marin. I've been with the SparkPoint since 2009, since we started SparkPoint Marin. I'm a CPA. Recently, well, not recently, 2 years ago, since I got my certification. I've been working with different community populations. I was also working in Skyline, working with the students, so which is something that I'm currently doing as well, but with the College in Marin, so providing financial education to the students. So just putting this and the new population, which is the students, before they actually start making financial decisions. So not, in a way, in the future, they make those better financial decisions. So that's me working with the students and with the community population here in Marin County.
I don't know why I bothered to get dressed. You can't even see what the heck I'm wearing. Suffice it to say. Good morning, I'm Leslie Klore, and I'm old, and I've been in the community a long time, and particularly have been specializing in housing. So I worked at Marin Housing Authority as the advocate there, and then at Whistle Stop Senior Center, and then I started the Shared Housing Program for Episcopal Senior Communities, which operates out of Whistle Stop. And upon my retirement, I decided to volunteer, and I'm volunteering at SparkPoint to do housing consulting. So I've been around a long time, have a lot of background regarding housing, so please feel free to call me with any questions you may have.
All right. So some statistics about poverty in Marin County, how it's affecting our folks, some of the strategies that we're using to help people move themselves out of poverty. So what our programs look like. You'll get to hear from a couple of clients today, see a video. We have a little financial quiz for all of you to get started. So it hopefully will be interactive and engaging. We welcome questions throughout the presentation. We're going to be touching on a lot of different topics. So you don't have to remember till the very end. So if something comes up for you, feel free to raise your hand and we'll address your questions as we go. I'll also be keeping time, so if it feels like we're not going to make it through, I may ask you to hold a couple till the end, but we'll see how we do. So let's get started.
Okay, so we're going to start with this financial education quiz just to measure and see how much do we know about these different topics. So the first one is what percentage of one person income should be saved? So let's see, who said 10%? Who said 15%? 20%? Well, the right answer is 10%. That's based on the Financial Planning Association. So that's what they said, that everyone should start paying yourself 10% of your income. The second one is, what is the average yearly rate of inflation for college tuition around the country? 2%. Who said 2%? 5%? 8%? 11%? Well, the right answer is 8%. And the last one is, how much will typical married couple retiring at age 65 spend on out-of-pocket costs for health care throughout retirement in today's dollars? 100,000? Who said 100,000? 200,000? 266? And the last one, 330. Well, the right one is 266,000, and that's this information is from the Financial Engines, which is a financial advisors associations as well. So letter C is the one, and letter C from question number 2 is the correct one, which is 8%, and the ones that everyone should be saving is 10%. All right, so I'm gonna pass it over to Heather.
Thank you. So that's just kind of to get us thinking, financial information and systems are very difficult to navigate, not only for a lot of us, but for the people that we're aiming to serve. So I just think it's difficult to get information that's accurate and that one, can really digest and use to plan for one's future. So I want to do a quick group brainstorm and just kind of read the temperature in the room from all the different agencies that you represent. So I'm just going to ask a few questions and we can just have a quick conversation. We want to hear from you. What are the most pressing needs for families in Marin County today that you are seeing from your perspective? What is being done to address the needs, and where are the gaps? So anybody just feel free to share. What are you seeing, day to day and week to week? Okay, so housing, credit, and childcare are some of the big ones. Great, thank you. What else are you seeing?
The income in many families, despite of the many jobs that they can have, it is still a lot of the money goes to pay for the rent. So that is a serious issue.
Mm-hmm. So high cost of living and not enough income to meet their
Exactly.
needs. Absolutely. What else?
Mental health to address traumatic experiences.
Mental health services and challenges with that. Absolutely. Anything else? What are you seeing that's being done to address some of these issues? So we said credit, childcare, income, mental health. And some of you are working with these folks and in these ways. What do you think we're doing as a county already?
I think we have a great network of FQHCs that provide integrated health care, including mental health. A great network of FQHCs, federally qualified health centers in the county that provide integrated health care, which includes behavioral health. And a lot include housing navigators and these kinds of roles. I just think the issues are very difficult to resolve. Mm-hmm. So if nothing else, we can provide a friendly ear and some resources, but I'm not sure that we always get people to a resolution.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. What else in terms of gaps? So we have services, but it doesn't always meet the full scope of needs that a family may have, right? Any other gaps that you're seeing, areas where we may have some services, but you're still seeing a great need in the families that you're serving? Kind of what would, yeah, please.
Sorry. I work for Marin Childcare Council, and we do childcare. And we have stage 1 and 2, which is directly, it's hard to explain now, but it's like directly from the county. But once they hit stage 3 and other, the funding are restricted. So that eligibility list is like 2,000 or 3,000 children waiting for services. And the gap is there's no funds.
So a large number of people needing the same service and not enough to go around, okay?
Also, health in general for immigrants that they don't have papers. I think I'd see the gap in between the ones that they have the opportunity to have at least medical, and the ones that they don't have it and they had to pay out of pocket or wait for services with the clinic. And I have to say also, in behalf of the housing and Parent Services Project, we belong to MOC, and we're really fighting for the rights for the tenants' rights, and we are advocating for a measurement they call just cause or of eviction, and we're trying to change that policies.
Great. Thank you. Any last thoughts? This is really helpful. We're going to keep this in mind as we move through the rest of the presentation, some of the issues that you've brought up. Any last thoughts? Okay, then we will move on. So you have a document in your packets in front of you where I took these statistics, but I wanted to pull out and highlight a couple of them for you. And there's a lot more information. It's the snapshot on poverty. So Marin County has the highest cost of living of all Bay Area counties. And a lot of this won't surprise you, but I think it's helpful to provide context for why are we here and why do we do what we do. 30% of Marin County families live below the California self-sufficiency standard. And as a frame of reference, that's a little over $67,000 for a family of 3. So this is calculated by the Insight Center Self-Sufficiency Calculator tool. I've provided the link here, and you can get copies of this presentation once we leave today, so if you're interested in looking at it. But essentially, it's a tool that takes into account the county that someone lives in, the size of the family, the age of the children, so you can look at childcare costs, and they come up with a number through this formula of what will it take for a single individual or a family of 3 to really meet their basic needs in that county. So it's better than the federal poverty line because that's standard, and the cost of living in different states really is not the same. So this tool is really helpful. We can actually break it down to the county level. So we know that 30% of families are living below that standard here in Marin County. 65% of children in San Rafael City Elementary are eligible for free and reduced price school meals. And there's a low income threshold to qualify for this service, so we know that there is a great need. So again, food insecurity is very prevalent here in San Rafael. And then the next statistic is about our income disparity. The top income families earn over 21 times more than low income families. So we're talking about equity. Not everybody does have equal resources and means to be able to thrive in our community. And again, this isn't surprising, but kind of sets the tone for why we are here. So I want to show you a quick, about 3.5-minute video that highlights the stories of a few clients who took advantage of services at other Spark Point centers, actually not at Spark Point Marin. And I'll talk to you a little more about the Spark Point model regionally and give you some more information about how it started and who's part of it. But I thought it'd be nice for you to get to hear from them. This video was made by United Way Bay Area.
I was in cash aid and food stamps at the time. I didn't have the knowledge. I had no idea how to deal with my credit. It was a long process. I came here at the beginning to do my taxes, and then I learned about all the services that SparkPoint has, and I started working on my credit. I got all the information, I have all the support, and I was able to improve my credit. I was able to save money. I was able to buy my first car, all because SparkPoint,
While at the shelter, we were referred to the Fremont Family Resource Team for different help. And then I've learned about SparkPoint. My family and I, we are in a better financial situation right now because of SparkPoint. We were able to get off food stamp for the first year, and on the second year I was able to call my worker and get off medical. My children are very happy. I am very, very happy, and we are very grateful for that.
I started going to the program seeking PG&E assistance because I needed help with my PG&E. I went to her workshops, got a resume made, got help with resumes, looking for employment. I went from having a minimum wage paying job to making double what I was making once before, and I also received childcare. This place was so helpful for me, and if it was not for them, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be able to accomplish everything that I have accomplished if it was not for this program. So I want to say thank you for the Family Resource Center. Thank you to SparkPoint, because if it was not for you guys, I would not be where I'm at today. I would not have childcare for my kids, and I would not have the career that I have now. I don't have a job now, I have a career.
So yeah, very touching stories, but some people sharing what SparkPoint means to them and how they were able to use the services, again, to lift themselves out of poverty and to make progress toward their financial goals. So I'm going to give you a brief history of the regional SparkPoint initiative. So SparkPoint Marin is not the only SparkPoint center, as you saw in the video. This program was conceptualized by United Way Bay Area, and the first SparkPoint Center opened in Oakland in 2009. The overarching goal is to cut poverty in the Bay Area by half. So it's a poverty-fighting initiative through United Way. SparkPoint Marin came shortly thereafter in July 2010, so we were one of the early adopters of the model and have been operating in San Rafael since then. Now there are 14 sites operating throughout the Bay Area, and these sites are located strategically in locations within communities where they are accessible and helpful. So there are SparkPoints at community colleges, there are SparkPoints at nonprofit agencies like ours. I mentioned earlier we're part of Community Action Marin. There are SparkPoint centers that are part of health and human services agencies, and even some in elementary schools. So, as we were kind of developing this model and, building throughout the region, we tried to think strategically, where would this be accessible and where does it make the most sense in terms of service integration? And the methodology, the common thread is one-on-one financial and career coaching. And you'll hear more about what does that mean, what are the services like, and again, you'll get to hear from a couple of clients who have gone through the program. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Axel and Leslie. They're going to tell you more specifics about our services. Yes, please. Yeah, great question. So initially, when United Way launched SparkPoint, they said, we're going to cut poverty in half by the year 2020. And then they took away the 2020 because we realized while we see good results, this is a process and it takes time. And it takes time to build relationships with communities and trust and partnerships and to kind of build from a small space. This is kind of a family by family or individual by individual model, which means it's very resource intensive, it takes a long time, but the change is significant and sustainable. So we're investing in individual family units and it tends to stay. So I do have some statistics at the end of the presentation that will show you between 2009 and 2015 some of the progress that we've seen region-wide. And if you still have questions after that, feel free to let me know. Does that sound okay? Okay, great. So I will hand it off to you.
Thank you, Heather. When it comes to our financial coaching, we use this model to empower our clients and to get their information because it seems like everywhere that they go, everyone is asking for information. We're not the exception, but in a different way. So, so we need to gain their trust first. So through the coaching, we start gaining that trust and asking them the reason why we asking for that information. We establish by establishing their goals. So it's really not easy to start working with someone who doesn't really trust anyone. So and that's where we use the coaching. So pretty much asking what's important for them and what we're trying to accomplish, and we design a plan as well to see to have a map for them to see step 1, A, B, and C, and to see how long would it take for them to get to where they want to be. One of the things is the money affects all aspects in our personal lives. So in many cases, they think that all the things don't affect money. They might probably come in with different. They come in with some personal issues, and they think that that's not going to affect money. But everything is attached. Everything affects everything. Through the coaching, so we are checking in with them every once in a while, every month. It depends on them. So we design that relationship based on what they are, what they trust us. Every month or every 3 weeks, every 2 months, we're gonna be checking in to see where they are, because we are giving them some homework, which is based on how much can they commit to. We're not, through the coaching, it's not something that we said, okay, you have to do this, this, and this. So they have to come out with their own action steps and with their own solutions for their own problems. So, and that's what, how we define coaching compared with counseling, which is telling them what to do. Okay. About credit, so this is the other piece that we offer, credit and debt. So this is just a process. What you see on the screen is a process that we use for everyone. The first thing that we do is pull the credit report for everyone, review the credit report, and look for any incorrect information that it's on the report. Based on that, so then we can start disputing information that could be inaccurate or incorrect. Believe it or not, but in most of the cases, there's incorrect information that we need to that they find in their credit report. Create a plan based on what they find in all of these steps. So then we have to come up with a plan. Everyone, it's coming with. Now with the idea that they want to improve their credit score for a reason, because they probably want to apply for housing, or they want to buy a vehicle, or they want to obtain a job, and all of this, every time they go and ask for or apply for any of this, so their credit report is going to be reviewed. And so they just want to make sure to start creating a plan so they can start either repaying or just creating that plan so they can improve their credit report or the credit score. And at the end, is information, is educate them about what they should be doing and not do. Because the main point for us is to provide the information and the tools so they don't come back to us. And so they can resolve their own problems in the future, and not just for them, but also for family members or friends, pass this information to them. So, because we are in the same boat, so we are all, at some point, having some problems like about credit.
Axel, before you go on, for people that might not be familiar with the specifics of a credit report, could you give 2 or 3 examples of the kinds of things on a report that could make it difficult for someone to buy a car or rent an apartment?
They miss some payments, or they probably have some accounts that were in collections that they didn't pay in the past 7 years. So it doesn't really matter, I guess. In the first 2 years is when they have the most weight, or where they're going to be dropping points from the credit score. But it's not limited to that. There's some other issues when they also had some liens from the IRS or from the franchise tax board. I guess fortunately now they're going to be dropping after July. They started taking those off starting from July 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Axel is a credit counselor as well, so he knows better than me.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thanks.
So I'm gonna pass it over to Leslie, which is our housing specialist and counselor.
Hi. SparkPoint really believes that money influences all aspects of our lives. So we don't just do counseling regarding finances. We do career counseling, housing counseling, we have a food bank, we have all sorts of things which we're going to talk about. It's interesting in Marin County, we have a heck of a lot of resources, but not everyone knows about it. And prior to my working at SparkPoint, I didn't know what it was. And now that people say, well, Leslie, what are you doing now? I say SparkPoint, and they say, what? So it's very important, and the more I go over it, the more it is embedded in me as to what services we provide. So career advancement is very important, and we have a career counselor at SparkPoint, and what she does is works one-on-one with people to identify what they think they want to do and identify their strengths, their weaknesses, their goals. And with the coaching that we do for all of the programs, we really set up a plan, and we follow through with meeting with people every month, every couple of months, because we don't want to just talk to them one time and then say bye-bye, good luck. We want to follow them and give them support along the way, because often these are hard struggles, and to do it alone is very difficult, and to have a rooting section behind you is really important. So we set the milestones, we support the job efforts, we talk about state and county resources. In the county, we have Marin Employment Connection and other kinds of job sites that people can access. The Y has a program for employment for women over 50, so it's really a great system, and people need to know what these other resources are. We also connect people with other job seekers so they can obtain peer support and find out what other people are doing and how they're progressing. And then it's really important as to how you present yourself on a job interview. So we talk about resumes, we go over those, cover letters, and even mock job interviews, because it's really important to feel comfortable when you're interviewing and to present yourself in a positive way, saying that I'm the one you need to hire. And so to be able to go through mock interviews, you get more comfortable with the process and learn how to work it. So it's a very thorough coaching system, and the people are seeing success. Because if you get a job, as the person said in the video, I don't have a job anymore, I have a career, it's a wonderful thing, and it really boosts your economic abilities, and that is an important part of your money management. This is me, housing assistant. Over 20 years of housing experience in Marin County. Okay, so it's very important for people to know what their options are. That's my philosophy. If you're homeless and you're struggling with that, it's important to know what options and choices you have. I specialized in working with seniors. So what I'm doing now is really learning more about the areas that you serve with families and single parents and that kind of thing, and younger people. So I have to start educating myself all over again. So for the senior community, we talk about what Section 8 housing is. Great misconceptions and great rumors flow about Section 8. It's open, it's closed, whatever it is. So we talk about what it is. We talk about subsidized senior housing, and those are apartment complexes through Marin County for seniors. And there are numerous ones, but they're all governed by waiting lists. And the waiting lists are either open or they're closed, and most of them are closed. And if you get on one, you may be waiting anywhere from 2 to 5 years. So we talk about how to approach that. Don't ignore it. Don't keep postponing it. Just apply to anything you can now and get on with your life. And then we talk about shared housing. I started the program in Marin 5 years ago, the shared housing program, and that is an affordable way to get housing. We solicited seniors who lived alone in their houses and had extra rooms, and we proposed the idea of what if you rented out a room in your house? It'd be a great source of income for you, and in addition to paying for a room, someone could also provide you with services instead of rent. So the senior was getting really help any way they needed it to support themselves. Lots of people are living alone in their houses in Marin, and people are living longer. When some of my clients were like homeowners who wanted to rent a room out 100 years old and 90-something years old. So it turned out to be a very viable resource. The average room in Marin County would rent for anywhere from $900 to $1,100, depending on do you have your own bathroom, what are the other facilities in the house. When I started 5 years ago, the rooms were going for $700 and $800. So because landlords are getting greedier, the prices have gone up. But it is a very viable source of housing. If you can't afford the rent, like a one-bedroom apartment in Marin could be $1,500, $1,600, $1,700. If you rented a room and paid $900, you're really saving a lot of money, and it makes it affordable. So also, we talk about housing search. If you're looking for either a shared rental or you're looking for an apartment, how do you go about it? How do you present yourself? How do you learn how to be a good tenant? When I was at Marin Housing Authority, we placed people sometimes got a voucher who had been homeless, previously homeless. And I remember the first case I had with that, I was overjoyed that this guy I had been working with finally found an apartment. And I tracked him after he got the apartment. He lasted maybe 3 months because he invited all his homeless friends into the place because he was sympathetic and knew what they were going through. He hadn't been a tenant for years, so he didn't know how to be a good tenant and how to sustain his housing. So he lost it. So it's really important to learn how to be a good tenant, what a landlord expects, and how you can comply with those things so that you have success as a tenant. Also, it's important to create innovative tools if you're presenting yourself as a tenant. And we talk about a housing resume. And I used to joke when families were looking, I'd say, take a picture of the family, include the family dog, smile, and put that in the resume so that people can get an idea of who you are. And then you talked about your former tenancies and letters of reference from other landlords. And so you really approached it like a business. You're serious, here's what I'm giving you, this shows that I'm going to be a good tenant. And then I make referrals to outside resources. You know, where else can they go to look? What resources can they use? Often when people come for counseling and say they want housing, they come and they sit and they want me to find, to do it all. And I think there are two things that I've learned. One is people have to help themselves. I'm a great cheering section, and I always say, call me, we'll talk about it, we'll celebrate what you're doing. But you have to put yourself out there yourself. And the other thing is learning to be flexible. Because when I see people and they only want to live in San Rafael in this one neighborhood, that really is going to narrow their search. So it's really important that they expand themselves to include all sorts of possibilities so they have success.
Okay, so one other service that we have at SparkPoint is the tax assistance. So this is one of the IRS Bida tax programs. So it's run based on volunteers. So through the tax season, we recruit volunteers to provide this service to the community. So we're just going to go over the numbers. This is in the past tax season. So we completed 726 tax returns. And the total refund, just for you to have an idea, it was $1,015,069. And this includes the state and federal refund. As for the earned income tax credit, so it was $393,010. With the state of California, they also came out with this new earned income tax credit. So it's one of the federal is the largest tax refund, but the state of California came out with the same. Their income guidelines were a little low compared with the federal. So now recently they increased the income requirement. So now one person who makes $10,000, for a single person who don't have any child, who's not claiming anyone, they can make it's 217. But now, if you are claiming a child, so you can get up to 1,452 just from the state of California, compared with the IRS that is 3,373. For a single person in the past, for the past 2 years for the state of California, it was 6,114 what it was qualifying you to get this earned income tax credit for a single person. But now they increased that limit of that income up to 10,000, 10,087, which is a drastic change, which is a good thing for the community. There was another change which is important is in the past, people were only getting their earned income tax based on their wages, regular wages, if they were regular employees. But now the new change is that anyone who is self-employed, they will also qualify for this earned income credit. So, so this number at the bottom for the EITC, this is just for the federal. So a person with 3 or more dependents or qualifying dependents, so they can get up to $6,318 in refund. For the state of California, they can get up to $2,706. So those are just numbers for you to know why it's so important to encourage the community to file income tax. So it's a good time for them to start up to save through the tax season. So just want to share this with you.
Are those Marin numbers, or is that Bay Area wide?
No, this is just in Marin. This is actually just in our site in SparkPoint.
Great.
Okay, we have a food assistance program, which I think is terrific. We have an emergency food box program. So we have all boxed up, a 3-day supply of food for those in extreme need. And we have different size boxes depending on the size of your family. And we have different boxes depending on if you have a way to cook, a means to cook, a stove, an oven, that kind of thing, or a box for people who don't have that. And this, someone is entitled to one time a year. Is that accurate? It's terrific. So we have boxes stored at Spark Point for people to come and get. We also have a food pantry. Now that is, I used to weigh 100 pounds, but since I started Spark Point, we get donations from Susie Cakes. What the heck? So these cupcakes are sitting there, and I walk by, and I can't resist. And I've got my dog addicted to them, too. So we have food supplies. We have a food pantry, and it's open Monday through Thursday from 12 until 4:30. People don't have to qualify. They don't have to be from San Rafael. They just come in. They get to talk to Zoila, who's very hospitable. They sign their name, and they're entitled to 2 bags of groceries a week. The supplies vary from week to week, day to day. So we get some prepared salads, we get sandwiches, we had bagels the other day, we had hot dogs from a school that donated the hot dogs left over from something. And then we get fresh produce, and we get milk, and we get just all sorts of things. It's really a lovely surprise to come in and see what's available. So someone can come in one time a week. And on Thursdays between 3:30 and 4:30, they can come again, because we don't want to have food that spoils we're closed on Fridays for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So they can come back a second time. So as you know, when people don't have money, food is a really important thing. And this is such a great resource. And people, don't have to feel hesitant to come in because they're not made to feel self-conscious. They just come in, they say hi, they sign in, and they pack their bags. We also have a CalFresh application assistance. It used to be food stamps, now it's called CalFresh, and sometimes people are daunted with the idea of having to fill out an application. So we have our coaches available to help you fill out the application. So refer your clients to us for the food. We don't want to have a stampede, but it's really a wonderful, humane resource where people aren't made to feel self-conscious about it. So avail yourselves of it.
Can you, Heather, before you go on, can you let us know about the food pantry? Leslie talked about signing in, but I know a lot of people have, a lot of our clients have concerns about these days putting their name in. Are there any restrictions? Do they have to include their address? Because a lot of folks with ICE and immigration concerns are worried about being on lists or having their identity recorded.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So the sign-in is really just so that we can determine how many people we're serving. So we understand our volume, we can report to funders, but it's all aggregate, and they don't have to put any personal identification like, how to contact them and things like that. So it's really just a count for us so that we can keep track of how many we're serving. Yeah, thank you. Great question. All right. So you've heard about the services and the model. And I'm really excited to introduce you to 2 of our clients who have gone through our program and are still working through the program. I think, it's important to have the information about who we are and what we do, but when you hear about a personal experience, I think it really helps to understand what does this mean for people? What is the impact on people's lives? So I'm very pleased to welcome Shirley Sherrod, who has generously donated her time. And I know it can be difficult standing in front of a crowd and talking about yourself and your personal journey, so thank you in advance.
So hopefully, I just undid what she did. Okay, everybody can hear me okay? All right. Okay, so good morning. My name is Shirley Sherrod, and I am a client and also a volunteer at Spark Point Marin. Let me begin with my connection with Spark Point as a client first. I came to Spark Point in July of 2016 seeking tax advice for unresolved past tax issues that were somewhat complicated. I knew that I would not be able to afford a CPA or an accountant to spend the necessary time needed to help me resolve these tax issues. I wasn't sure that SparkPoint's financial coach, Axel Flores, would even consider helping me, especially after I sat down with more than one 4-inch binder completely filled. You see, not only was my income tax returns somewhat complicated, but my life had become complicated. The state of California's Franchise Tax Board believed that I owed over $30,000, and they reported what I believed to be an erroneous amount to the 3 major reporting agencies. Having these tax liens on my credit reports crippled me financially, as you can imagine. I had already been to 2 other Spark Points in the Bay Area, in Solano and Contra Costa counties, and they both were unable to provide me with the tax help that I needed. I felt that Spark Point Marin was a last chance situation for me. To my surprise, though, Axel at Spark Point Marin agreed to work with me on resolving my tax issues. We spent more than a few appointments over the next few months, correcting and preparing tax returns. The process was completed and mailed out on November the 11th, 2016. I'm now happy today to report that I have received a letter from the State of California's Franchise Tax Board stating that my tax account that showed an owed amount of $30,000 is now at a 0 balance. I cannot, it's great. I cannot begin to tell all of you how relieved I am today and how sincerely thankful I am for Spark Point Marin, as I am in a stronger position to move on to a better place in life. Now, there is another relationship that I have with Spark Point Marin other than a client, and that is one of a volunteer. Out of my sincere thankfulness and gratitude, I decided to join the team at Spark Point Marin in January 2017 as a volunteer for the VITA program, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. Who would have thought that a tax season that is usually viewed and experienced as fast-paced and all aspects could take place in a fun environment? Well, that is exactly what I experienced while volunteering at Spark Point Marin, where we contribute as a team helping people get refunds while making a difference in our community at the same time. Making a difference. Those 3 words stayed with me beyond my time during tax season, and I decided to stay as a volunteer, working as an administrator's assistant. It was while I was an administrator's assistant that I was able to see the varied facets of this gym called Spark Point Marin. Being able to assist clients and patrons who often showed up overwhelmed with varied financial needs that begged attention gave me a sense of satisfaction. Remember, it was not so long ago that it was I that was in great need of tax assistance myself and felt I had no one tax advisor to turn to. Spark Point Marin is more than tax advice and preparation. Our team includes some of the best in specialized coaching that would include finance, credit, housing, career, and a finance coach specializing in government and nonprofit food programs. This is where I have found my new position at Spark Point Marin in the food programs. There I will be reaching out to both clients and patrons who are in need of food assistance. At Spark Point Marin, the community will be able to apply for CalFresh, receive emergency food boxes, and have access to Spark Point's own food pantry. I look forward to continue to serve the community while volunteering at Spark Point Marin. I would like to take a moment to thank everyone this morning for giving me your time so that I could share with you not only my own personal story and experience with Spark Point Marin as a client and volunteer, but also share with all of you the importance of making a difference. I believe that Spark Point Marin strives in community building through their free community resources that support growth and prosperity to those individuals in need. Once again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Shirley. We really appreciate having you today. And then without further ado, we have another speaker, David McLam, also a client who has agreed to share his personal journey with you today. So please join me in welcoming David.
In January 2017, I became a Spark Point client, and this is my story. I've been a tradesman for most of my career, and I've engaged in lifelong learning and tried to have a balanced life. And at 10 o'clock in the morning on July 17th, 2013, everything changed in an instant. After 2 years, 2 operations, and a year of physical therapy, I was declared 30% disabled. I needed 2 canes to walk on uneven surfaces, and I was unable to continue my work at the earthquake simulator lab in UC Berkeley. My life was not going well, and I didn't want that terrible 2 seconds to define the character and quality of my life from that point forward. So my last rehabilitation option was to choose early retirement and try my best to see if my Tai Chi studies would live up to their centuries-old promises. And I began training, working out 4 or 5 hours a day, working alone. And after a year, I could finally balance on one leg for 30 seconds. So I rejoined my Kung Fu club and started working on my flexibility and strength, and I lost 35 pounds, thank God. Physically, good things were happening, but financially, I was falling apart. My money was getting really thin, and I was more than a bit nervous about that. I was on my own and feeling pretty insecure. Tax time had come around again. You can see where this is going. And I was leaving the San Rafael Library one day, and I saw a Spark Point sign on the corkboard near the exit. And it said, "Get your taxes done for free." So I couldn't wait to tell my wife and jumped on the chance to save some money. When I showed up at the Spark Point offices in San Rafael, I saw there was a wide range of services offered, including business development. So I was pretty inspired by the menu options, and I signed up for the orientation and became a member. I have a persistent and clear vision of what I need to do. Using Tai Chi, I can help others transform the same way I was able to transform myself. But there's a huge gap between my vision and the particulars of starting a business. Specifically, where do I begin? How do I make my idea into a business? And what is the basic structure and so on? When I met my Spark Point counselor, Axel Flores, it became obvious that he had a business and financial knowledge par excellence. It's hard to imagine being offered this help for free. I think it would be difficult to find these services even if I had the money to pay for them. Mr. Flores could probably go to work tomorrow for a lot more money, but he's been hanging around helping me instead. All I have to do is help shape the vision, follow the advice, and do the homework. The homework can be difficult and time-consuming, but it's way easier to do when you know you're on the right path. The whole experience has been very humbling. Everyone at Spark Point has been very kind and generous, and it can be difficult to speak about this without getting a bit emotional. the help I get is something that I want to give back. It's really inspiring seeing so many people get what they need to gain financial stability and independence. For my business, the community Tai Chi name and mission was inspired by SparkPoint help I received from Mr. Flores. My business idea is to deliver Tai Chi training to the client's practice space and to form a nonprofit to solicit money to teach those who can't afford to take classes. United Way and SparkPoint is where you will find people who are dedicated to helping others. Their efforts are a stabilizing force in society and can help make this a more peaceful and cooperative world. I want to live in a world with healthy communities where everyone has a lot to lose. Like Eleanor Roosevelt said, everyone does better when everyone does better. So much love to you all, and a debt of deep gratitude to Axel Flores, and thank you to everyone at SparkPoint. We really need you.
Well, thank you again to both of our speakers. I don't think anything can top what we've heard from them. For me, at least, when I go to presentations like this, hearing from the clients and actually the impact that you feel these services have had on your life is definitely the best part. So thank you again for your courage and for coming out today to share with this audience. We appreciate it. All right, so like I promised, I wanted to give you some information on, okay, where are we? So we started in 2009, and what are we seeing today? So here's some information on long-term impact of the SparkPoint model. This is Bay Area wide, so not unique just to SparkPoint Marin. And for the period 2009 to 2015, so now we're in 2017, these numbers I expect would be a little higher, but this just gives you a sense. And before I get into that part, I want to remind you of the 4 long-term goals that we define as success. You saw them very briefly in the video at the very end. We had a couple of folks, and it talked about what they're accomplishing. So the first is a self-sufficient income, and we talked about the self-sufficiency calculator, and that's the tool we use to determine what is a self-sufficient income. So that's one of the big goals. A credit score of 700 or higher, savings of 3 months of one's living expenses or greater, and no revolving debt. So these are very audacious goals, and we do not expect a client to come in at any point in a spectrum, but wherever they do come in, we'll work incrementally over time to achieve these 4 goals. And so we are measuring the progress of clients all across the region. So we could look at an individual client story, we could look at a specific site like SparkPoint Marin and look at the aggregate of our clients, and then we can look Bay Area wide, what's happening. So between 2009 and 2015, we found that 70 to 85% of clients maintain their financial goals after achieving them, and that more clients retain the credit outcome than any other. So that seems to be the outcome where they have lasting, sustainable, positive change. Between that same time, 177 clients achieved self-sufficient income. So again, that's based on the county they live in and the other factors. And then on average, clients who stayed with SparkPoint for 2 or more consecutive years achieved the following. They increased their monthly income by $807, improved their credit score by 39 points, and decreased their debt by over $10,000. So again, these are aggregate numbers, average, for the SparkPoint Regional Initiative between 2009 and 2015. So we are seeing positive impact over time. And then I will hand it over to Leslie to share a little bit about, for those of you who are interested, how you can get involved after today.
Okay, now that you know about SparkPoint, there's going to be a quiz to see how much you really listened. Please tell people about it, because as I started by saying, there are a lot of resources for Marin County residents, but they don't know about it. So please share the information with your colleagues, go back to your offices, talk at office meetings, and share the information and refer clients to us, because you can see the success is wonderful. And it's a gradual thing, but at the end, people have achieved their goals. They really feel good about themselves, and that's very important. You could also join Spark Point Marin's steering committee and be a part of the planning so that you can guide what's going to happen in the future. And as tax season is coming up, you can volunteer. You won't be able to work with Axel. I don't know if you haven't made your announcement. Anyway, but you can volunteer as a tax greeter or preparer, because we do free tax preparation for people. They can come in, they can have their taxes done, and we need as many volunteers as we can get to aid in that program. So now that you know what we do, please send people to us. It's really important. We've been very successful, and we can always help as many people as we have the capacity for. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to put up our hours of operation and our contact information and location. Again, you'll be getting a copy of this presentation, so you'll have the information. It's also on a lot of the materials in front of you. And then finally, we just want to thank you again, and we welcome any additional questions or comments that you might have at this time. Yes.
Questions?
You know, I know you're highlighting the community there, the stories, but you know, at one point I worked at Spark Point, and there were people for the Latino. There's a variety of goals that they work on. Like I still see some of the clients that I used to see, and they started with applying for their legal process and immigration, and they are achieving that. You know, so it's a wide range of things. It's a variety of goals based on individuals. You know, sometimes it's developing business, marketing materials, buying homes. You know, so there's a whole array of goals that I think are not highlighted, but in the Latino community can work on their specific structure. You know, sometimes cleaning houses. You know, how do you structure a business, marketing materials, and things like that. People work on their individual goals. It's on coaching base, so it's not imposed upon people. What they're going to be working on is their own dreams. And I think the concept that a lot of times is seeing the power within themselves, you know, seeing the power. They're the ones that have the answers to their own path. So that's what I want to say. And then on another note, this one is related to what I do. I'm Olivia Beltran. I work with Canal Welcome Center. I'm the associate director there. And right now, we have the Marin Rapid Response Network that is a grassroots-driven effort, and it has developed a hotline. And the hotline is for people that are in the midst of raids. If people in the community that are undocumented are facing a raid, they can call a hotline. And then the person on the other side of the hotline can remind them of their civil rights, and also send deploy legal observers to the site. The hotline is 415-991-4545. That's the hotline number, 415-991-4545. And I'm going to be sending probably the flyer to Michelle, so she can distribute among the list of all of us. And you are all welcome to print that flyer. And right now we're recruiting volunteers for dispatchers. They got to be bilingual. And legal observers. Legal observers doesn't imply that they got to have a law base or legal base, but mainly is because whenever they record video and photography, can support the case of that immigrant in the court of law. So thank you.
And I know we had another question over here. While I'm going across, Heather, can you let us know about options in Espanol?
Sure, yeah. So for folks who speak Spanish, we have one of our front service providers, or our office manager, who sometimes is in the front, sometimes not, is bilingual. So in terms of learning about the services, understanding the services, and getting enrolled, that can be done in Spanish. We offer orientations every month. 2 are in English and 1 is in Spanish. And we alternate between daytime and evening time orientations for both of them. So people can go to a Spanish orientation. We have intake forms that are in Spanish and English, so people can actually fill out their information in different languages. And then in terms of the coaching, we have career coaching that's done in Spanish. And Axel is bilingual, so he does financial coaching in English and Spanish. And during tax season, we have bilingual volunteers who are doing taxes. So to the best of our ability, we're trying to have open and equal access.
Thanks. And for those, in addition to coming into the center, but for those of us that work where maybe a lot of people who speak Spanish are gathering, is it possible to have someone come to them? I'm thinking, for instance, the charla at Bahia Vista, where a lot of parents gather there together. Can someone go and address them in Spanish?
Absolutely. We do community presentations frequently. We've done them at Bahia Vista, at Davidson, at Margaret Todd Senior Center, and other places. And then we would just ask, how many people are coming? What language do you need the presentation in? So we're absolutely happy to schedule events like
Great.
that. Yeah,
Thank
you, Michelle.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was wondering, the process, the first step for a new client is to attend an orientation. Is there much of a turnaround time to get one-on-one, and how does that work?
Great. Thank you for asking. And I should share, too, we have the ongoing coaching services, which is the core model and what we really are designed to do. And we have the extra support services that help someone meet their basic needs while they're working on their long-term goals and strategies. For the long-term financial, career, and housing counseling, somebody would register for an orientation. And again, there are 3 per month, 2 in English and 1 in Spanish. So they register for the orientation. They sit through usually maybe 45 minutes. They'll get a lot of the information that you received today, get to ask questions. Typically, it's a coach that's providing the orientation, so somebody who they may or may not be working with. They fill out some basic intake paperwork, and then from there, they can schedule an intake appointment right after the orientation. It won't happen that same day, but they can schedule for a future date. I have seen that happen the very next day or a week later, so it kind of depends on the availability of our coaches. And during the intake appointment, which lasts about an hour, they won't go fully into their coaching session yet. They're going to bring in a completed baseline assessment. So you saw some of our metrics, and the way that we're able to determine the extent to which our program is effective is by having them complete a baseline, as kind of a snapshot in time of where are you today, and then talk about their goals, and we measure against the baseline typically every 3 months or when there's a significant change in their circumstances. So they'll go over their baseline assessment during the intake. They'll talk about expectations of the coaching relationship. So we ask people to commit for 6 months or longer, which, it sounds like, is that a barrier? That's a long time. But just like if you were to meet with a physical fitness trainer, at a gym, and you say, well, I want to lose 10 pounds, meeting with someone for 1 or 2 weeks typically isn't going to get the results. So it's a process, and we explain that to them. And we share, we have great successes throughout the region, but that's for people who have been working with their coaches for typically 2 years or longer. So we ask for 6 months. So we talk about those expectations, and then we talk about goals and kind of the beginning of an action plan. So what is important to you? And as Olivia very eloquently described, we do not have a formula and a linear kind of program where, you have to start with a budget and then you can meet with our credit counselor. Really, we'll address the need that is most prevalent for that family or individual. And then move forward from there. So typically people meet with multiple coaches. It's not just you're assigned this one coach. And that's because we have coaches with different specialties. So they may want to meet with housing, credit, career, financial. They may want to get their taxes done. They get to choose the order and the number of services that make sense for them. So I think that's one of the beautiful things about the model. It's very customized to each family or individual circumstances. And then in terms of frequency of visits, it's really up to the client. The first appointment has to be in person, the intake appointment. And then we can accommodate through phone appointments if necessary, if people have barriers in terms of showing up at our site. We don't typically do coaching off-site except for College of Marin, which Axel explained at the beginning. We're there once a week. But other than that, we work out of our site. But people can come in once a week. People can come in once a month. So it should be a regular interval, but we're flexible and we try to accommodate people's schedules, and it's whatever makes the most sense for them, however they feel best supported. Does that answer the question? Yeah, sure. Oh, sorry, and really quickly before I take another question, that's for the coaching. So the career, the housing, the credit, and the financial. If somebody just wants to come in and access our food programs or get their taxes done, they do not have to go through what we call the membership process. The membership is free, but that's where you go through the orientation. So for folks who just need a food, emergency food box, or they want to use our pantry on a weekly basis, they just sign in. They don't have to become members. And same for taxes, it's on a walk-in basis. So that's kind of the separation of the coaching, where you become a member and go through that whole process, or if you're just taking kind of one of the basic services, that's not necessary.
Thanks, Heather. I just thought a follow-up question about the food, just because it's a big deal for those who have clients that do use this. For those who may be going to other food pantries, are you checking if they're getting food somewhere else? Is there any restriction on that? Or can they come to you for the once a week even if they go to another food pantry?
Yeah, there's no limit for us. We don't check where else they get their food. So
Great.
They can come on a once a week basis, plus the Thursday afternoon if they, that extra window of time.
For whatever might be there
For
at that
whatever's
last hour.
left. Yep.
That's a big deal. Thank you.
Do you serve residents of all Marin County, or it is specifically in San Rafael? That is one question. And the second question is, you mentioned the orientation. You do monthly orientation. What days and at what time?
Great. So for the first
Thanks.
question, we serve people anywhere in Marin County. Really, they could come from outside of the county, but because usually we're doing regular, appointments, it makes most people, I think, if not all, are from Marin, but anywhere in Marin. And so we do orientations, like I said, in the daytime and the evening time. And the best way to find out, actually, I'll go back to our contact page, what our orientation schedule is. And I could send it to Michelle, so when she sends out the PowerPoint, you have it in front of you. So the phone number listed here is the front desk and where you can register for the orientation. So you can always call and just say, I have somebody in my office, they would like to attend an orientation, or I would like to attend an orientation. When is the next one? And they can go over the schedule with you right there on the phone and pick one that works for you. But Axel, do you mind writing down, just send orientation? I just want to remember. So I'll send that to you,
Great.
Michelle, and then we can get the 2017 schedule out to everyone. Thank you for the question. Oh.
I'll do that at the end. Thank you.
Since we're within eyeshot of a location where people are being temporarily housed because they've evacuated Sonoma fires, it would be really helpful to know financial literacy information that can be shared. I mean, this is the Marin Communications Forum, so I was thinking, how can we communicate about financial literacy concerns that people are facing who have lost everything? And I know migrant communities have been disproportionately affected. So if you could share some resource, and I know that there are many organizations doing wonderful work like this in Marin County, so maybe you can, share some details that we could put forth into the communities that we work with to assist those who are especially in need right now. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm thinking if we do have a list of emergency resources broken down by various categories, whether it's legal, financial, housing, childcare. I'm wondering if that might be something that's helpful. People are obviously more than welcome to sign up with us. I do know that shelter that was in San Rafael has moved to Mill Valley, just an update, that they're no longer at the Civic Center, so they've moved a little bit further down south. But that's definitely a really good idea to explore. We have a lot more people here who are in extreme need, so thank you.
The County of Marin and also Sonoma County and Napa counties are providing resource centers now that the initial evacuation the initial part is over, and obviously some people are still staying, but they are having resource centers, and the people that are evacuation centers are being notified of that. But also each county's Facebook page would be a place to go to look for that listing. So, for instance, in Sonoma County, they're doing kind of a one-stop resource center. So you can go in, and there are representatives from all different agencies. So someone can go in and apply to DMV to get a new driver's license. They can find out about food assistance and housing. They can find out real estate issues and what do they need to do to start rebuilding, and how do they get renters assistance, that kind of thing. So each county is handling that. But thanks, Mel, and we'll follow up and also try to share that separately on First 5 Marin and also on the Marin Communications Forum Facebook pages. Any other questions?
Just to let everyone know that Parent Services Project is also a VITA site, so we're doing free tax prep for families. You do have to earn $54,000 or less, but we're located in the Canal, and this is our second year as a site. We've learned a lot from Spark Point and depend on Axel all the time. We will miss you. We also need volunteers, so it's run by volunteers. You get extensive training from the IRS, United Way Bay Area. It's a 3-day training in January, 3 Saturdays in a row. Sorry, but you do learn how to prepare taxes. So if you're interested in becoming a VITA volunteer, please contact me or Heather. Should I contact you?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
I was just going to make a comment because I know you guys are concerned. I come from Sonoma County, so I have all that. You are correct, all the websites. FEMA's down there. They have like a place where all people are guiding to go there. There's a lot of movement on that side of the world. It's kind of hard because you guys are over here, so but I just wanted to just put that little information that there are a lot of help out there and a lot of police work and everything guiding people. If you're in shelters, I volunteered this weekend. There is a lot of volunteers. There's food, everything. A lot of shelters don't need clothes or food anymore. They're actually, the food they're throwing away sometimes because it's going to waste. Like I helped at Sonoma Valley and there was not a lot of people coming, but it's the fear of usually our Latino community is not going to get the resources. So if you guys have people that are usually in the minority communities are trying to get help, just go. There's no immigration there. There's nothing. More so, they're trying to help every family that's been affected.
Any other questions? Let me then just follow up because we had a gentleman that was asking about First 5 Marin, and thank you for that because many of our guests have come every month because the Marin, Marin Communications Forum is a project of First 5 Marin, but I neglected to talk about our own organization. So First 5 Marin is a local government agency. There's one in every county, Children and Families Commission. And there's also a statewide organization. We serve children 0 to 5 and their families with school readiness programs, children's health, and then family support, community support programs. And this Marin Communications Forum is broadly and loosely part of that community outreach and advocacy that we do. So each month we bring a public policy topic or communications or media advocacy issue to the community and offer these free workshops and training sessions so that we can help our community partners become better informed and serve the community that we're trying to serve. At First 5 Marin, there are only 2 of us, so having you all here and enabling you to do your work with a little more information is what we're all about. So that's a perfect segue to talk about our next 2 sessions. On Monday, November 20th, we're going to be having a workshop on cannabis. And it's a major issue, obviously, because we have new state law going into effect on January 1st. Because our focus is children and families, we're not going to be addressing the big political issues. We just want to bring to light some of the concerns for children and families. So, for instance, what are health concerns for pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers? What are issues for children, such as the edibles that look like candies but actually contain cannabis properties? What are brain development issues for pregnant women, for young children, for teens and young adults? So that's going to be an important event. We have one of our presenters will be Dr. Matt Willis, who is the public health officer for Marin County, but we're very excited about that. And we are also going to have someone to come and just explain the whole legal picture. So what's federal law compared to state law, and what are county regulations, and what's legal and what's not. And then right after that, and this relates to our session today, on Monday, December 4th, we're going to be having a session called Making Ends Meet in Marin. And we have presentations from the Marin Economic Forum, and we're going to go over the cost of housing, which seems to be cropping up almost every time we get together, the cost of childcare versus wages and incomes in Marin, and how do you make ends meet in Marin? As Heather said, when there's a self-sufficiency standard that's so high. She mentioned the amount of money you need to earn for a family of 3, but the one that I know offhand, if you have a family of 4 with 1 infant and 1 preschooler, in Marin County, it's $102,000 that family needs to earn to be able to make ends meet without public or private assistance of any kind. And that's just making ends meet. That's not getting ahead. And as we all know, many families are not making $100,000 in this county. So with that, I would just thank all of you for the work that you do to serve the children and families in Marin. We thank you very much for coming today, and we look forward to seeing you again.